Hello, welcome to this course about RealityScan Mobile. My name is David Tveraas. I'm an Unreal Authorized Instructor and game designer. The latest game I've been developing, the action RPG Nightborn, uses photogrammetry assets developed using RealityScan Mobile. Throughout this course, I will show you the techniques I used to create these assets. Let's go over what I'll cover in this course after this introduction. First, we will go over RealityScan Mobile, what it does, and how you may use it. Then I'll give you a tour of the app and show you how to use it. Next, we will discuss uploading and editing your scans. Finally, we will review what we went over, and I'll leave you with some final tips. I'll post chapter markers for each section if you'd prefer to skip to those parts. What is RealityScan? RealityScan is photogrammetry software that uses photographic images to create 3D models. It was created by a company called Capturing Reality that is owned by Epic Games. There is the software RealityScan, which is formerly called Reality Capture, and that's the name of the desktop software. There's also RealityScan Mobile, which was formerly called just RealityScan. You can see how that's can be confusing with the name changes and such, so just think of RealityScan Mobile as the mobile one. RealityScan Mobile is available for free on iOS and Android devices. You may find the download on the Apple App Store, Google Play, or the Galaxy Store. RealityScan Mobile on iOS requires iOS 16 or higher, while RealityScan Mobile on Android requires ArtCore support and Android version 7 or higher. When you open the app, you are brought directly to the Projects page. Process projects are projects that are ready to use. Unprocessed projects require some further processing, which I'll go over later, and new projects can be started by pressing the plus button on the bottom there. You'll also see that there's some extra features on the top, which I'll now get into. The little I button at the top will open up your options to hide unprocessed or hide processed projects. This can become very useful as you make a long list of projects and you can help narrow them down a bit. You can also uncheck them both to make sure that nothing is hidden as the beginning default. Pressing the question mark icon can give you an overview on how to use RealityScan. It's the Getting Started section. Swipe right to continue down this how-to. This section shows you what to scan. It's good to have an object selected that you're going to scan that has a lot of detail that you can focus on. Make sure to, while scanning, get as many angles as you can. I'll go over this more and how things are scanned and what coverage you need. High texture is good. Plain objects are not very easy to scan, as photogrammetry requires a lot of references to put together a final asset. So once again, things that are not clear, not shiny, that will be reflective and will change as you walk around it, and not completely plain. You can attempt to scan objects with these aspects, but it's going to be more difficult and you're going to end up with more errors. When you start a scan, one of the modes you can turn on is camera control mode. This is the more classic mode where you take pictures, as many as you need to get the object that you need fully covered. The mode allows full control of the camera settings. It produces a high quality image, and you can use several of these camera features to make sure you get the coverage you need. Masking is a powerful new feature that you'll be able to turn on in the settings. It is defaulted on, but if it's off, I'll show you where to turn it on later in the settings section. What it allows you to, this auto object masking allows you to flip an item while scanning so that you can get all sides of an object. The example shown here is this loaf of bread that you can move and flip over, and that way you can get even its underside. Alternatively, you can use AR mode, and AR mode allows auto capture, where if you tap record to activate the mode, you can move around the object and it will auto grab pictures for you. A feature of the AR mode is this live point cloud. The live point cloud displays colored dots showing covered areas. Green shows you good coverage, yellow means you have some okay coverage, you probably could use some more, and red means it's very poor coverage. It knows it's there, it knows you're trying to scan it, but you need more pictures of those angles. Whether you used the camera mode or the AR mode to create your project, once you are finished, you may process the project, and once it's finished processing, you can either save it to your device locally, or you can share it to SketchFab. SketchFab is a website where you can create an account and access 3D models. You can also view other people's 3D models. I will be going over SketchFab later in this tutorial. The end of the help section asks you to have fun scanning, and I think that is good advice. It also has this link to discover our user creations. That means, you get links to other people's artwork. For example, shown in this image is the artwork by Wallace Wainhouse, a fantastic creator. I believe there have been other pictures earlier on you have seen, and artwork is attributed as appropriate. You can see this all again in-app by selecting the question mark again. That way, whenever you have a question on which step you're on, you can easily get access to this how-to. Back on the projects page, there is the select button on the top, which allows you to open the select interface. Once you click on an object, you can select as many as you would like. You can have the option to process as many unprocessed projects that you would like as well, or delete as many objects as you would like. So I'd be careful with that button. Make sure that you only have selected what you want selected. And when you do a multi-process, processing can actually take a good amount of time. So be prepared for that if you're going to process more than one project at once. Let's review some of the settings on the RealityScan mobile app. The first setting there is the scanning mode. You can change it from always ask whether you want to use the AR guidance or the camera control, or you can set it to default to the AR guidance, or you can set it to the camera control using that option there. There's data usage. There are two options for data usage. I have mine set to Wi-Fi only. The other option is Wi-Fi and mobile data. It will actually use your mobile data if it's set to that. That's why I turn mine off, so that I can just use Wi-Fi and not have a bunch of data charges or anything like that. The app does require a connection to process because it's not being done locally on your phone. There's this toggle option here for automatic object masking. This is a semi-new feature as of making this video. It makes it so that you can flip your object. Let's say I'm scanning like a loaf of bread or something like this, and I can turn it around and take more pictures, and it will try to find exactly where it was without getting messed up with what is in the background. Actually, I'll just read the text here. Only available in camera control mode, automatically detects and separates the main object from the background so you can safely flip it and scan on all sides without interrupting your workflow. That was a better, more succinct way of putting that. And then there's these other help sections here where you can view a video tutorial. I just clicked on that and it went to an error page, so hopefully that gets fixed soon. It should send you to a YouTube page, I believe. If you can't find that using the app, you can just go to the Capturing Reality or RealityScan. Just look at that up on YouTube and you'll be able to find the page where all of their tutorials are. I'll also make a link to that at the end of the video. The documentation page that sends you to the Epic documentation for RealityScan app. And the community forum will also send you to the Epic community forum where you can have discussions or maybe even get help or ask questions, maybe make some collaborations. It's a great place to hang out. And this next section is show your support. You could submit feedback about the app. You can share the app with friends or any associates, and you can rate the app on the store. Scrolling down, you can see that the app lets you manage your Epic Games account. I'm logged in. You can also check out the end user's license agreement and privacy policy. I would suggest you review that sort of stuff before you use any sort of app. Also, there's third-party notices. That's an additional documentation you can read. And you can turn on and off this toggle for data trading. It allows access to your data to help RealityScan. You don't have to use that if you're worried about the type of data that you might be like scanning and that kind of thing, but otherwise it's probably very helpful for RealityScan to get this information and for them to develop more products. This is also where you can sign out of the app. Back on the projects page, if you select the three dots under a project, you'll see these other options. One is to process or reprocess the project if it's already been processed. You can view or edit the scan, which I'll be showing you how that is done soon. You can view it on SketchFab, which will send you to the site. You can view the images for that project, which it compiles and turns into the scan, the asset. You can rename it. You can simply select it for another action, or you can delete it here. If you select the project options for a project that hasn't been processed yet, instead of reprocess project, it will just say process project, as I just stated. However, you'll also notice that you can't share it on SketchFab because there is no asset to send there quite yet. It needs to be processed first. All the other options should be the same. Once you start taking pictures in your project, your scan will start to form. The way to adjust where you are while looking in a project is to drag and touch your finger to orbit the model. You can spin around it. You can also zoom in and out by double tapping or pinching to zoom out, double tap to zoom in, and there's a button to reset view, so to set yourself centered on the object. And if you want to pan around, just go right or left or up or down, just touch with two fingers and drag in that direction. Before you start scanning, you're going to have to choose a subject to scan. It's best to scan something with a lot of detail and is something that you can get around, or if you only want to scan one face of something, get to as many angles as you can possibly get. The example here is this fountain I found in Indianapolis. I was able to walk all the way around it, do some low shots, some high shots, and I ended up with something pretty good. It's not perfect. I find that things that are about breadbox size, about this big, are kind of like perfect to scan. You can scan large objects, including buildings or monuments, or uh, potentially there's no max size, but often it will require something like a drone or something to get around big things. People have scanned buildings just by going like up and down steps that happen to be around them. But anywhere that you can't get any shots, there'll be blank spots, and I'll show you that as we go. As an example, here is a video of me walking around this tree. Every step I'm taking another shot. You need as many shots as possible. I recommend at least 70. You can see each shot is from a slightly different angle. Now this tree is intentionally chosen as an imperfect scan because there's going to be a spot as the tree gets higher that is sort of cut off, and I'll show you exactly what that does in the app. But I'm making my way all around the tree so that you get as many shots from every angle as possible, so you can get every nook and cranny. This tree is particularly good because there's a lot of texture. You can see that the roots have a lot of depth and different bumps and stuff, and most of that will be picked up in the scan. You can do large objects like this, and it will produce something nice. Something to be aware of is when you're scanning like this, look at my face. I'm looking right at the camera. Be aware of your surroundings as I'm approaching these utility devices. That's something that I could crash into. I don't, because I'm aware that they're there. But you want to make your way all around and get as many pictures as possible from as many angles as possible until you hit max. When creating a scan, you first have to choose the mode. I usually use camera control mode because there are limitations to augmented reality mode, even though it can be pretty quick. The limitations are object masking and advanced controls are not available. I will show you some of the advanced controls in the next slide. This is a screenshot from when I was scanning that tree. This is what I saw on the phone. To begin scanning something, all you have to do is just start shooting, start taking pictures. You just hit that white button down the center of the bottom there. You can take up to 250 images using the app, using the RealityScan full desktop version, I don't think there's a limit. It might be a really high limit, but with the app, it's only 250 images. I recommend 70 as a minimum, so you get a lot of detail. If you click the three dots near the middle of the image there, it will give you a couple options. You can turn on a flash in case things are too dark, but I don't recommend taking pictures in the dark. Probably should have a good illumination. There's also an option to turn on the macro focus if you're trying to get something very small and detailed that you have to get very, very close to that normal focus won't see. If everything is blurry, your macro focus might be on, and you might want to check that to shut it off. On the lower left, there's another focus button, so you can manually focus it rather than just using autofocus. There's also in the bottom middle there a ISO exposure adjustment where you can change that in case you're not getting enough light or there's too much light. And the WB auto on the right side there is the white balance. In case the colors are off, you can adjust that and add more or less white balance. There's also that little toggle right next to the take the picture shot. That will turn on auto capture, so you don't have to shoot every shot. But I like to manually do it myself usually. But if you want to try to get stuff a little faster, you can turn it on, and it acts a little bit more like a video camera than a manual camera. And it keeps track of the number of shots on the lower left there. It says 0 out of 550, so you can keep track of where you are in that count. You want to cover as many angles as possible as you walk around the object. You also want to make sure that you know whether there is Wi-Fi connection or not, if it's going to generate a point cloud. You can also turn on cellular if you want it to use your data. I was outside of Wi-Fi range while I was shooting, so I wasn't generating a point cloud. That's okay. You can still find Wi-Fi or turn on cellular later to generate the point cloud. The point cloud isn't necessarily necessary to make the asset. Keep lighting in mind as well. I like to shoot mostly on overcast skies. That's the best results I've ever gotten is outdoors with a very overcast, especially if you can't see your shadow and there's a lot of light dispersing around. That's great, especially if it's a well-illuminated subject. Shadows can add some artifacting, and overexposed light can add some artifacting, and you're not going to get good results if it's very low light, even with a flash. In fact, the flash can make some of your scans a little worse, but so only use the flash if necessary. And if you are running into issues, you can just start over and reshoot it. Whether you have an active Wi-Fi connection, for instance, if you're shooting in your studio or simply near a Wi-Fi source, or if you're using your cellular data, you will start generating a point cloud. The point cloud gives you an idea of what is being covered and shot so far. The uploading might take a while, but generally it doesn't take too long, especially if you have a good, strong connection. The app will generate a partial point cloud once it has enough data. You can see there it still says that it's uploading images, 64% for this one. But you can already make out the tree stump there in the center, and you also see a lot of dots that are outside of where the stump is. Those are sort of like false positives. So you don't worry about those too much. We'll talk about that a little bit later when they're auxiliary mesh that can be just culled off using cropping. But the core stump there looks pretty good, although it's really small on the screen. Once you're happy with your point cloud and you have enough images that you're satisfied with, go ahead and process the project. Again, you can take up to 250 pictures with the app. You can also go back and take more pictures at this stage if you don't feel like you have enough. Before the process will start, you have to make sure that your settings are correct. I recommend putting in a name that matches something that you will remember and really describes the file that you're about to create. You can view all the pictures again. You could possibly even go back and take more pictures there. There's an option for high or normal mesh resolution. This is going to be the final product, so if you actually want something very detailed, go with high. If you're looking for more lightweight, go normal. There's this option here for smoothing the mesh. I normally turn this off because that you'll lose some detail with that. Unless you want something that is really, really smooth for some reason. Maybe you're trying to make something for a stylized game or film. Um, then that maybe turning that on would be good. But I almost always disable that because I like to see a lot of fine detail. And then the texture resolution. The texture is the actual color that it's going to generate for this mesh. And you can get that in 8K or 4K. Once that is all set, just hit process project and you're ready to go. Once the processing begins, you'll see a screen like this. You may switch back and forth between using data and using Wi-Fi only. Processing may take, in my experience, it's been about 5 to 30 minutes generally with my good Wi-Fi. I haven't really done too much processing using data, but if you're using both Wi-Fi and data, it's possibly faster. And the processing happens in the background, so you can go and do anything else on your phone or otherwise, and it'll continue. Now that my project is finished processing, that's this sample stump project here, I'll go in there, it will load the model. You can see that it looks like there's a lot of extra artifacts and things I wasn't trying to scan around the edges, but if I zoom in, you can see this is actually a very high quality scan. This is kind of exactly what we wanted. Now to get rid of all this extra stuff, oh, and I should mention, I did intentionally get this tree, so you can see what happens when you can't capture everything that's part of your subject. You'll see there's some extra artifacts here. It's trying to fill it in with that white stuff. And if you look down the center where it doesn't have any data whatsoever, there's just a hole. So now you can see there's this cropping tool and it centers over the top. What I can do is I can remove a lot of this extraneous stuff. I'll just remove that section for now, crop. There we go, it cropped that section. If you notice, it actually got some good detail in some of this stuff in the background too. So those might be scannable objects in the future, but I'd probably want to crop that out for here, for this. You can tell it's November when I took this image because you see all the leaves on the ground, which are kind of cool. But let's do some more cropping so that it's more of an image that you would want to actually process. Crop there. I think that's a good crop. Now that that's processed, I can also crop you can rotate this using this bottom interface. You can also make it a circle instead of a square, which actually might be good for this. I will crop in, since it is a circular object, to about there. Get it a little further in. Make it a bit more perfect. Crop that as well. And you can see my polygon count's gone down quite a bit. And I can change the view in which I am cropping. So I can do it from the left and maybe adjust its angle a bit. Crop here. That should be all right, I think. Yep. That removes the artifacting from the top. I would like to do one more crop here from the top in a circle. I think about here. You see, that looks pretty good, I think. So I'm going to share that to SketchFab. But before that, I'm going to show you some other things. This T, you can rename the project there. In fact, I'll hit rename. And there's also this matte cap is the center feature. And this is, you can see it without the texture. And you can reprocess with that square with the arrow around it, the second from the right. And then you can delete the project with a trash can. I'm going to select that I like this. I think that's just for feedback. You can also select that you don't like it, and then you can say what went wrong. But I'm actually very happy with this model, so I said I'm liking it. There's two things you can do from here. Is you can export the 3D model or share on SketchFab. I'm going to first share on SketchFab, and then you can fill out all of this stuff. I'm going to have to sign in, so give me 1 second. I'm now signed in on SketchFab, so I can add a category. I think, let's see, is there a nature category? Nature and plants, perfect. It's the only category I need. That will close. Get it to close. It doesn't want to close. There we go. I can add tags. I can write stump, maybe tree, description, tree, stump as an example. I'll make it a public project. You can select whether or not that this can be used in AI. This model may not be used for in data sets. I'll turn that on so that people cannot use this for AI. If you want it to be used in data sets for AI, you don't need to turn that on. And I click share on SketchFab. And then it says sharing on SketchFab. It's going to process there really quickly. That's some nice speed. And then we will go check that out on SketchFab. But before we do, let's go back into the project as soon as it's finished. And I'll show you what the export 3D model workflow looks like. Export 3D model. I can export as an OBJ or export as USDZ. There used to be other formats such as FBX. I hope we get those back soon. So I'll do an OBJ. And you can save it to wherever you'd like. I'm now on sketchfab.com. Sketchfab is a repository and marketplace for 3D models. You'll need an account to get this far. Now that I've processed it and sent it to SketchFab, all I have to do is click on models right here, and you can see my sample stump is already here. I could click on that, and you get a preview of the 3D model here. Says something went wrong with the 3D viewer. That's probably because it's still processing at this point. It probably won't take too long to get that going. It does look pretty good as is. If I want to download it, I can click this button right here, download 3D model. You can get this in a variety of forms, OBJ, USDZ, and some others here. I'll download the OBJ version. And why don't we throw that into Unreal Engine and see what it looks like. I imported the USDZ file here in Unreal Engine. This is what it looks like. It is fairly realistic. It's actually pretty good looking. It still has the hole in it, as expected. But its texture and altogether quality is very high. Thank you for watching this tutorial on RealityScan Mobile. To review what we went over, first we started with an overview on what the RealityScan Mobile App was for. Then I showed you how to scan with the RealityScan Mobile App. And then I showed you how to edit and upload your scans to SketchFab and other devices. Some additional resources can be found at realityscan.com. The Unreal Engine forums is full of people also doing RealityScan. The Dev Community Learning Hub, where you can find this video among other tutorials. I also have an advanced tutorial on how to scan in someone's face to make them a metahuman. And also RealityScan has a great YouTube channel with a lot of great tutorials for further learning. Good luck on your future scans.